This is a football show. Let's turn our attention to the Champions League and a crucial game for Bayern Munich tonight. They take on Lazio, but they're a goal down in the time. Now, Joe and Sam are here, and Gail is here as well. Now, they're 10 points behind Bayer Leverkusen in the title race. Gail, how bad has this recent run of form been?
Yeah, it really doesn't make very good viewing. Let's have a look at that run of form. And as you mentioned, the Leverkusen leading the league by 10 points. That was probably the key moment, I think, for most Bayern Munich fans when they began to feel that maybe a 12th consecutive Bundesliga title was not perhaps on the cards. They'd lost against Werder Bremen, but it was that big loss against Leverkusen that really cast a bit of a shadow on the end of the season. Lazio didn't have a shot on target during that game, off the back of a pretty poor showing the game before. And then it was the loss against Bochum that brought Thomas Tuchel's future into sharp focus, announced after that game that he would be leaving the club at the end of the season. And then after that, there's the win against Leipzig. But Freiburg, I think that result kind of pretty much sums up where Bayern Munich maybe are right now. Yeah,
we already know, as Gail was saying, after that Bochum result, that Thomas Tuchel would be leaving the club at the end of the season, it was said then. But is there a sense out in Germany that that could happen earlier than planned?
With these sorts of situations, you always have to weigh up the cost and the upside, right? So they've got Champions League tie tonight. They need to go ahead and turn that round against Lazio. And if they get through, they can sit there and say to themselves, all right, if we change managers now, what is the upside? Can we win the Champions League with a managerial change? Because I don't think they're catching Bayer Leverkusen in the league, 10 points off. They're out of the cup. There's nothing to salvage, really, except for, the potential Champions League win. So is there a manager out there that they can bring in and say, yeah, let's go. Let's go and win the Champions League. Let's do a late charge. And if the answer to that realistically is no, which I suspect it is, what's the point in incurring even more costs in terms of moving on from Thomas Tuchel? So that's the decision at the heart of every move that a club has to make in this situation.
Yeah, especially if that manager happens to be sort of on the way to a title. But we'll get on to that in a moment. Gail, we know just what is expected of Bayern Munich. They're expected to win even games against themselves, I think, most of the time, aren't they? And we've seen that recent run of form. But just put this in context, what are the other stats saying? How bad is this?
Well, I think the very fact that they were hoping to win a 12th consecutive Bundesliga title shows you just how far they've fallen. These are the main points here. No team has made up a deficit of 10 points. You think last year when they're going head-to-head with Dortmund, you thought there was a chance. 10 points. He's lost 24% of his games. That's the worst run since 1991. 63% win rate. That's the worst since 2009. And any Munich fans looking for their side to overturn a deficit against Lazio in the Champions League. Tuchel has only won once in knockout matches. There's been a few embarrassing defeats in the Cup as well. So I'm not sure they go with a huge amount of confidence this evening.
Yeah, and it's hard to work out, I would think, whether this is Tuchel or whether this is an ageing Bayern team. But we reported yesterday Xabi Alonso they have opened up talks with his representatives about going there. So make the case, Bayern or Liverpool for him. Or stay.
Well, he could stay, but I think if you were going to go to one of those two teams, personally I would go to Bayern Munich. I just think it's very difficult to succeed in Klopp's footsteps if you go to Liverpool. I mean, what are you going to do that Klopp hasn't already done if you go to Liverpool, unless you turn them into Manchester City where they just win the league every year, which would be incredibly difficult to do, given that it doesn't look like Pep Guardiola's going anywhere. Whereas if you go to Bayern Munich, he's actually got more relevant experience of being at Bayern. He was at Bayern far more recently than he was at Liverpool. He's obviously got very relevant experience of being in the Bundesliga because he's top of the Bundesliga, and he'd be coming from a much lower base. Bayern kind of need rebuilding. They're really struggling. The squad needs overhauling. If he's given the power to do that, that's an incredibly attractive proposition.
Yeah, I want to disagree, but I can't really. I would just add that getting super club experience is really important for any manager walking into one of these situations. And Xabi Alonso so far does not have that. If you can find that experience at a club that is at a low ebb, like Bayern Munich, who really can only go upwards from this season onwards, I think you should take that. because he's got that experience in the Bundesliga. He's familiar. His reputation there is sky high, and he gets to walk in and probably just restore Bayern to the top of the table, let's be clear. And then off the back of that, maybe ride out that post-Klopp period at Liverpool, wait for that to subside. And I think it's really important to do that. We've seen Unai Emery succeed Arsene Wenger. It didn't go well. We've seen David Moyes succeed Sir Alex Ferguson. It does not go well. It's really hard to do that. If I was him, I would avoid that and take that wonderful job at Bayern Munich, win a title, and then ask me again in a year.
Yeah. In a year.
Or two.
Or two. Okay.
Or three.
Okay, so be the one after. The one after Klopp.
The one after the one after.
Okay, that's always a good one. and sadly, we run out of time. The question in my mind is it Bayern ageing or is it Tuchel?
Bit of both.
Bit of both. Because Harry Kane's been okay.